She thought the factory was worth less than it would cost to tear it down. But when she broke open that sealed concrete floor, she found bundles of cash that looked brand new. They looked like they had been printed yesterday. $240 million. Hidden by her grandfather before he disappeared 40 years ago. Before we dive into this amazing story, make sure to click subscribe, because tomorrow we have an extra special story for you that will blow your mind. The rain pounded against the metal roof like 1,000 tiny fists knocking to get in. Sarah Chen stood in the doorway with her worn sneakers soaked through. She held the brass key that had come with the lawyer's letter 3 days ago. The building stood before her in the gray morning light with broken windows, rusty walls, and weeds growing through cracks in the loading dock. This was her inheritance. This was what her grandfather, who she hadn't seen in years, had left her after 40 years of silence. Some gift, she said quietly, pushing wet hair from her eyes. The lawyer had been honest with her. Property taxes alone would bury her. The building had dangerous materials called asbestos. The cost to tear it down would be more than any money she could get from selling it. He had actually suggested she refuse the inheritance and save herself the trouble. But Sarah didn't have the choice of walking away from anything anymore. Not with 2 kids at home and an eviction notice that gave her exactly 11 days to find somewhere else to live. The key turned easier than it should have in the rusted lock. The heavy door groaned open, showing a cave of shadows and old machinery. The air inside was thick with dust and something else. A strange, preserved feeling, like opening a time capsule. Sarah's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, lighting up rows of old textile machines with their metal bones covered in cobwebs. She had never met her grandfather, William Chen. Her mother had cut ties when Sarah was just a baby. Something about his obsession with the factory, his paranoia, and his strange behavior before he disappeared. The police had searched for months. Some said he had run away to another country. Others whispered he had been murdered by business enemies. But after 4 decades, everyone had forgotten about William Chen and his textile empire that fell apart overnight. Her phone buzzed. A text from her daughter Emma, 15 and too smart for her own good. "Mom, the landlord came by again. He says Friday now. Not next week." Sarah's stomach clenched. Friday. 5 days to pack their entire life. She typed back, "Don't worry, baby. I'm handling it." But she wasn't handling anything. She was drowning. Had been drowning ever since Marcus left 2 years ago, taking his income and promises with him, leaving her with 2 kids, a mountain of debt, and a nursing degree she couldn't use because she couldn't afford childcare. The factory floor stretched before her, easily the size of a football field. Sarah walked deeper into the space with her footsteps echoing. There had to be something here worth saving. Copper pipes, maybe. Or machinery that could be sold for scrap. Anything to buy them a few more days. That's when she noticed the floor. In the center of the main production area, barely visible beneath decades of dirt, was a square section of concrete that looked different, newer maybe. The seams were too precise. Too careful. Sarah knelt down, brushing away dirt with her sleeve. There were marks along the edge, letters carved deep into the concrete, for SCWC 1983. Her initials, her grandfather's initials. The year he disappeared. Sarah's heart raced. She ran her fingers along the seam, feeling for any opening. Nothing. Just smooth, cold concrete that had been expertly sealed. She needed tools. But minutes later, she was back with a crowbar and hammer from her car. The sound rang through the empty factory like a bell as she struck. On the 3rd strike, the concrete cracked. On the 10th, a chunk broke away, revealing not more concrete beneath, but metal. A metal door perfectly fitted into the floor. Sarah's hands trembled as she cleared away debris. The door was about 4 feet square with a simple handle built into its surface. No lock, just a handle waiting to be pulled. She gripped it tight, took a deep breath, and lifted. The door was heavy but well balanced, rising on hidden hinges to reveal a ladder going down into darkness. Cool air rushed up from below, carrying a scent of metal and paper. Lots of paper. Sarah aimed her flashlight down. The ladder went down maybe 12 feet. Against every instinct screaming at her to leave, to call someone, she swung her legs over the edge and started climbing down. The room was concrete on all sides. Maybe 10 by 10 feet, but it wasn't the room itself that made her legs go weak. It was what filled the room. Stacks upon stacks of sealed plastic containers, clear enough to see inside. Money, bundled bills wrapped in old-style paper bands. Hundreds, 50s, 20s. Row after row, stack after stack. Sarah sank to her knees, her mind struggling to understand what she was seeing. She reached for the nearest container with shaking hands, popping the airtight seal. The bills inside looked fresh, crisp, like they had been printed yesterday despite the dates, all from the early 1980s or before. A manila envelope was taped to the inside lid. Sarah opened it with trembling fingers, pulling out a single sheet of paper covered in her grandfather's handwriting. "My dear Sarah, if you're reading this, then the lawyers finally found you, and you found what I left behind. I know your mother kept you from me. I don't blame her. By the end, I wasn't myself anymore. The pressure, the threats, the betrayals, they changed me. This money is clean, earned through decades of honest work before everything went wrong. When I realized they were going to destroy me, frame me, and take everything I'd built, I turned what I could into cash and hid it here. They searched the factory 100 times but never found this room. 240 million. I counted it twice. It's yours now. But be careful. Be smart. The same people who destroyed me might still be watching. Don't let them know what you found. Take it slow. I'm sorry I never got to know you. I'm sorry for whatever struggles you faced. Let this make it right. All my love, William Chen. P.S. The factory has good bones. Don't let them tear it down." Sarah read the letter 3 times before it sank in. 240 million. Hidden beneath her feet for 40 years while she struggled to buy groceries, worked double shifts, and lay awake calculating which bills to pay. She laughed, a sound caught between hysteria and relief, then immediately clamped her hand over her mouth. The sound echoed too loud in the small space. She was alone in an abandoned building with more money than most people would see in a dozen lifetimes. Her phone buzzed. "Emma. Mom, where are you? Tyler's asking about dinner." Tyler, her 8-year-old, always hungry, always worried there wouldn't be enough. Sarah typed back, "On my way. Pick up pizza. My treat." For the first time in 2 years, those words didn't make her want to cry. Sarah forced herself to think clearly. She couldn't just start carrying money out of here. Her grandfather's warning echoed. People might be watching. She needed a plan. She carefully resealed the container, climbed back up, and lowered the metal door. The broken concrete was a problem, but she could cover it temporarily. As she drove home, hands steady on the wheel for the first time in months, Sarah's mind raced. The money would change everything, but not overnight. She had to be careful, had to protect her kids. But first, pizza. Real pizza from the good place. Not the frozen kind, with extra toppings and breadsticks and maybe even dessert. Because tonight, for the first time in longer than she could remember, Sarah Chen had hope. What happens next will transform a worthless inheritance into a life-saving discovery that changes not just one family, but an entire community. If you're enjoying the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. The next morning, Sarah's hands shook as she counted out rent money in the kitchen. She had returned to the factory at dawn, alone, and carefully taken out one bundle of hundreds, $10,000, that she had hidden in various purses throughout her apartment. It was enough to pay the landlord and buy breathing room, but not enough to raise suspicions. She had spent the night researching online, structuring laws, suspicious activity reports, all the ways sudden wealth could destroy a life as quickly as poverty had been destroying hers. When Mr. Peterson, her landlord, arrived, his eyes narrowed at the cash. "Thought you were broke. Got some overtime," Sarah lied smoothly, "and borrowed from a friend." He grunted, counted the bills twice, and left. Crisis averted for now. That afternoon, while the kids were at school, Sarah met with a real estate agent. She paid cash for a deposit on a modest rental house across town. Nothing fancy, but it had a yard for Tyler and good locks. The agent didn't ask questions. "Mom, how?" Emma asked that evening as they packed. Her daughter's eyes were too knowing. Sarah had prepared for this. "Remember Grandpa's factory? There was some valuable equipment inside. I sold a piece to a scrap dealer." Emma studied her face. "Is that why you've been going there every day?" Sarah's heart skipped. "You've been watching me?" "I was worried. You've been acting different. Happy, but scared." Sarah pulled her daughter close. "Things are getting better, I promise. We just need to be careful for a while. Can you help me with that?" Emma nodded. "Is someone after us?" "No, just need to handle the legal stuff, right? Boring adult things." But as they taped boxes and wrapped dishes, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. 3 times that week, she had noticed the same dark sedan near the factory. Twice she had gotten calls where no one spoke. Maybe it was paranoia, or maybe the people who had driven William Chen into hiding 40 years ago were still out there. Friday came, moving day. The kids were excited about the new house. Sarah had hired movers, paying cash, keeping her story simple. But her mind was on the fortune still hidden beneath the factory floor. She needed help. But who could she trust? The answer came from an unexpected source. That evening, as they unpacked in their new home, the doorbell rang. Sarah froze. No one knew their address yet. Through the peephole, she saw an elderly Chinese woman, well-dressed, leaning on a carved wooden cane. "Sarah Chen," the woman said when she opened the door. "I'm Lily Chen. William was my brother." Sarah's knees nearly buckled. "I didn't know he had a sister." "He had two." "May I come in?" They sat in the living room, boxes stacked around them like fortress walls. "You found it," Lily said without warm-up. "The money." Sarah's cup rattled against the saucer. "How did you—" "Because I helped him hide it. I was an engineer. William trusted me with everything except where he went when he disappeared. He just left you." Pain flickered across Lily's face. "He left all of us, said it was safer. The men who wanted to destroy him weren't above using family as leverage, so he vanished and we pretended to hate him. It was the only way." "Who were they?" Lily's voice dropped. "Your grandfather built his fortune honestly, but he refused to play the games others expected. Wouldn't bribe officials, wouldn't look away when competitors cut corners on safety. He had evidence of their corruption, documents that could have sent half the city's business elite to prison. What happened to the evidence? Some say he destroyed it. Others think he hid it. But after 40 years, most of those men are dead. Their sons run the city now, but they don't even remember William Chen." Sarah absorbed this. "So it's safe?" "The money? Safer. But you still need to be careful. That much money appearing suddenly would raise questions." Lily reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "This is my nephew, your second cousin, David Chen, financial attorney. He specializes in estate planning. He can be trusted. Why are you helping me?" "Because you're family," Lily said simply. "Because William would have wanted this. And because I've watched you these past years, working yourself to the bone, never asking for help. You remind me of him." Stubborn, proud, determined. "But everyone needs help sometimes." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. She had been alone so long that the simple offer of help felt like lifting a mountain from her back. "There's something else," Lily continued. "The factory. Don't sell it. Why? It's worthless. Your grandfather didn't just hide money there. He loved that place. It was his legacy. He wouldn't have told you to keep it without reason." After Lily left, Sarah stood at her window watching the taillights disappear. Her phone buzzed. A text from David Chen. "Aunt Lily gave me your number. Free tomorrow to discuss your grandfather's estate. We have much to arrange." The next week blurred together. David proved to be sharp, discreet, and innovative. He set up trusts and shell companies, creating a legal framework to slowly access the money without triggering investigations. "Think of it like water through pipes," he explained. "Too much pressure and the pipe bursts. Multiple channels, controlled flow. That's how we do this safely." The first step was establishing a found assets claim on some factory machinery. An appraiser valued several antique textile machines as museum pieces. Suddenly, Sarah had a paper trail for $200,000 from sales to collectors. With that initial capital, Sarah could breathe. She paid off credit cards, caught up on the kids' dental work, bought a reliable car. Small steps, nothing flashy, but it was the factory itself that occupied her thoughts. She had returned several times, exploring beyond the main floor. In her grandfather's office, locked in a safe behind a portrait, she found blueprints, not just for the factory, but for what it could become. Plans for a community hub with manufacturing, education, daycare, even affordable housing. He wanted to do more than make textiles, Sarah told Lily over coffee. He envisioned a whole community. Lily nodded. That's why they destroyed him. He was proving you could profit and treat workers fairly. Made them look bad. Sarah spread the blueprints out. What if we could still do it? Adapted for now. With what money? Lily asked with a knowing smile. Sarah met her eyes. We both know there's enough. The question is whether it's right. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. The money could secure her family for generations. They could move somewhere else, start fresh. Or they could stay and build something. The next morning, she called David. I want to buy the properties around the factory. Quietly. How much? 6 abandoned lots, 2 condemned buildings. Maybe 3 million? David was quiet. You're thinking big. My grandfather did. Time someone finished what he started. Over the following months, Sarah carefully took more money from the underground room. Always at night, always in small amounts. She installed security measures, disguising the work as general maintenance. Emma became her unexpected ally, helping with cover stories, researching the neighborhood's history. Did you know this was called Textile Row? She said one evening. 12 factories in the 1950s. Grandpa's was the last. Sarah looked at the old photographs Emma had found. Streets full of workers, children playing in factory shadows, a whole ecosystem that had faded away. What if we could bring it back? Emma asked. Not just factories, but everything. Make it a place where people want to work and live. Sarah pulled her daughter close. You sound like your great-grandfather. 1 year after finding the money, Sarah stood watching contractors install windows in the renovated factory. She had taken out nearly 10 million so far, all carefully laundered through David's legal channels. The first phase was ready, a business incubator offering cheap rent to local entrepreneurs. She had had dozens of applications. The old textile machines would stay as museum pieces, reminders of what the space had been. "Miss Chen," a contractor called out, "found something you should see." Behind old insulation on the eastern wall was a mural, the factory in its heyday, workers standing together, sun rising behind them. At the bottom, in her grandfather's handwriting, "Built by many hands, stronger together." Sarah traced the words with her fingers, tears blurring her vision. Even as his world fell apart, he had left messages of hope. Her phone rang. "David." "Sarah, I have news. One of the men who ruined your grandfather. His grandson wants to invest in your project." Sarah's blood chilled. "What?" "Word's gotten out about the renovation. He thinks there's money to be made. If they want to invest, it means they don't know about the hidden fortune." Sarah thought about it that night. She wouldn't take their money. This project would be built with her grandfather's money, his vision, the way he would have wanted. The grand opening was set for spring, exactly 2 years after she had inherited the factory. The week before, Lily called with unexpected news. "I found letters from William in my attic. He never stopped watching over you, Sarah. Photos of you as a child, newspaper clippings. He knew about your marriage, your divorce, your struggles. He wanted to help, but was afraid it would put you in danger. Why didn't he reach out when things got safer?" His last letter explains, written a month before he died. "He knew he was sick, was planning to finally contact you, but his body gave out first. He was protecting you even in death." That night, Sarah sat in the underground room, now properly secured. She had used barely a tenth of the money so far. There was so much more good it could do. The morning of the grand opening dawned bright. Sarah stood watching families arrive, vendors setting up, the building humming with new life. Startups on upper floors, artist studios, a community kitchen. Emma stood beside her, 17 now, coordinating volunteers with impressive efficiency. "The mayor's here," she noted, "and news crews. And, oh," Sarah followed her gaze to elderly Chinese individuals, making their way through the crowd, former workers who had spent their youth here when her grandfather ran the place, one woman in her 80s approached with tears streaming. Mr. Williams' granddaughter. He would be so proud. During the ceremony, Tyler, now 10, grabbed the microphone. "My mom's the best. She fixed everything and we're getting a skate park." The crowd cheered. Sarah laughed and cried simultaneously as her children hugged her from both sides. As the sun set, casting golden light through new windows, Sarah found herself at the spot where she had first broken through the floor. A small plaque on the wall read, "On this spot, hope was hidden and found again." "Phase 1 is a success," David said, appearing beside her. "Ready for Phase 2? Sarah looked out at the celebration. Neighbors sharing food, children playing, entrepreneurs discussing collaborations. More than ready. Good. The state wants to designate this an economic revitalization zone. Tax breaks, infrastructure support. Success is contagious. That evening, Sarah visited her grandfather's restored office. On the desk, she had placed his photo next to one from today, herself and the kids in the same spot, the factory reborn behind them. "We did it, grandfather," she whispered. 5 years later, Textile Row was unrecognizable, vibrant, alive, pulsing with renewal. Where empty lots once collected trash, gardens bloomed. Where condemned buildings stood, affordable apartments housed families. The factory had become the heart of it all, employing 300 people. Mom, Emma, now 22 with an urban planning degree, knocked and entered. "The documentary crew is here." Sarah smoothed her blazer. The documentary would capture the revival of American manufacturing communities with Textile Row as the poster child. As the crew set up, an elderly man arrived in a vintage Rolls-Royce. "My name is James Morrison," he said, tears in his eyes. 40 years ago, I helped destroy your grandfather. I've come to apologize." He handed Sarah 2 envelopes, evidence of past crimes and a check for $50 million. "Blood money. I don't want it. Use it to continue his work." Months later, the William Chen Justice Foundation launched, helping families targeted by corporate corruption. Sarah insisted Morrison, who lived just long enough to see it established, be listed as a founding donor. Redemption should be remembered too. The factory continued to thrive. Tyler's skate park became a youth center. Emma launched her own urban development firm. The fortune, that impossible $240 million, was nearly gone, transformed into jobs, homes, opportunities, and hope. One evening, exactly 40 years after William Chen's death, Sarah held a memorial in the factory. Lily, 93 and still sharp, gave the keynote about dreams, integrity, and a granddaughter he had protected even in death. After the ceremony, Sarah stood where she had first broken through the floor. A docent was telling children, "Right here is where Miss Sarah found something amazing." "What did she find?" a little girl asked. The tour guide smiled. "A way forward." Sometimes that's the greatest treasure. As Sarah left that night, walking through Textile Row, she saw families in the gardens, elderly residents on benches, young professionals at the night market. She thought about the desperate woman she had been 5 years ago, days from eviction. The money was mostly gone now, but the real wealth surrounded her, in the laughter of children with safe places to play, in workers earning living wages, in families who could afford to stay home. Sarah Chen had inherited more than money. She had inherited purpose. And she had spent every dollar on something priceless. Proof that communities left for dead could rise again, that ordinary people could do extraordinary things, that hope, once found, could multiply infinitely. The factory stood behind her, no longer abandoned, but alive with possibility. Just as her grandfather had dreamed, just as she had dared to believe. Anyone can change the world if they're willing to look beneath the surface and see not just what is, but what could be. The woman who once thought she had inherited nothing but debt had discovered the truth. She had inherited everything that mattered, and she had spent it wisely. Up next, 2 more powerful stories that will restore your faith in hidden miracles. Click to discover more, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you believe that sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in the most unexpected places.